What's up, YouTubers? My name's Dyslexia, and today we're going to be going over the SouldDancer class in the new game Dragon Raja. In this video, we'll be touching base on core selection, gear stat focus, and PvP gameplay footage at the end of the video. So, what is the SouldDancer, and how exactly do I play it in this game? Well, the SouldDancer is a support class. It provides a little bit of AoE healing, as well as some damage reduction, some crowd control, and a decent amount of DPS. A lot of people have the misinformation that the SouldDancer is the strict healing type and that it heals like in other MMOs. It just simply doesn't play that way in this game. It doesn't have any single target heals that are very strong, and it can't really keep up with the amount of damage that is output in this game. So you have to use other abilities as a character to work around that. And the SouldDancer does a good job at supporting its party. So, starting off with the SouldDancer skills, SouldDancer's Pact. SouldDancer's Pact is probably your foremost most important ability, seeing that you are a support class. SouldDancer's Pact being an ability that gives you and your target a tether in between each other, and through this tether you share certain abilities, as well as a health transfer, which we'll go over in your skills. This tether is got about a 10-meter range. As soon as you walk away from the character, it will break the tether, and then when you come back close, it'll reinitiate the tether. I see SouldDancers too many times not worrying about this ability too much, or forgetting to retether or tether different targets. You want to stay on top of that as much as possible. It's one of your strongest abilities, and it makes you and your tethered partner extremely strong in combat. So, going over your next ability, that's going to be Ice Glare Shock. Ice Glare Shock is a ability that does damage in an area. It does up to 5 enemies. It does magic damage, and it returns a little bit of HP to yourself. It also slows the target for 3 seconds, and it's on a very small cooldown, about 5 seconds. The thing about this ability is it returns about 7,000 HP at this level, and I have about almost 2 million. So when it says small heal, it is a small heal. It's not going to keep you up through any burst or anything like that. It's just simply more of a damage ability that gives you a little heal in return. And it's only returned to your character. Your next ability is going to be your Phase Shock. Your Phase Shock is a pretty important ability as it repositions your Phantom. You basically target on the ground where you want to place the item. Your Phantom does some burst damage, and as well as debuffs the target to take increased 30% damage from all sources. So it's pretty good for team play as well as repositioning your Phantom. Because your Phantom, as you're going to see in a minute with the other skills, can be good to keep repositioning it so you can lay out other skills, as the Phantom can copy some of your skills. Your next ability is Zora Mark. Zora Mark is a AoE damage ability. It's placed on the ground, and anybody that is in the area of effect is going to take damage. Now, this ability does a high amount of damage. It does about 99,000 at my level, and if you can get them to stay in the full duration, it's going to do a lot of damage to them. And there's ways to play around and make sure that they stay in the circle, and we'll go over that in a moment. As far as your next skill goes, we have Time Expansion. Time Expansion is probably your second most important ability. What it does is when you're tethered with somebody, it will give your tethered person and yourself both buffs. It increases the size of your tethered partner. It increases their defense by damage reduction by 20%. It increases your movement speed, cooldown reduction, AP. It gives you a bunch of buffs. This ability is very situational, so don't just go wasting it all the time. Make sure that your target is actually taking damage, or that if you're trying to get away, your target's trying to get away. Use it at the right time. Don't just spam it. That's the ability that makes you and your target very deceptively tanky because of the damage reduction you receive. And going over other skills, you'll see that can stack with other skills as well. Your next ability is Shadowy Light. What this does is it makes your Phantom copy your skill that you initiated. So if you use any of these other 3 abilities, which are Recall Light, which is a heal, Time Lock, which is a stun, and Witch's Kiss, which is a polymorph, your clone will copy them. So for instance, if I need to heal somebody far away, I don't want to get into the fray, I can simply use my Phase Shock to move my clone, copy, and use my heal, and it'll place it where my clone is, as well as where I am. It can double stack it, as far as the heal goes. This heal itself is more of a turn back in time type heal. So what that means is the amount of damage that a person takes within a certain amount of seconds, if you land this heal on them, it'll return a good portion of that heal. And then anybody that steps in the circle afterwards will get a heal over time of, at this level, 8,238 HP per second. It'll also increase their crit and AP and multi-strike by 437. So it's a pretty good buff. As far as the heal goes, it's negligible at best. It's not a huge amount of heal. The thing that is situational about it too is that it can only hit one person if you want it to heal that specific person. Otherwise, it's just going to randomly hit anybody in the group that you're dropping in. But as I said, it can clone and it can double stack. So if you're the only person that it lands on both of them, it's going to do a substantial heal as well as give you those buffs. Time Lock. Time Lock is an area of effect stun. And Time Lock, what it does is it stuns up to 5 people. It can also be cloned. So if I am trying to run away or I need to drop a stun in the middle of a group, I can simply hit my copy ability and use my time stun, which will do up to 5 people. It's a pretty great ability, great AoE stun, very good for team fights. Your Witch's Kiss. Your Witch's Kiss turns your target into a chicken. It's a polymorph for up to 5 seconds. It reduces their physical and magic defense as well, and it's an amazing ability. It can also be cloned, meaning that your clone you can CC up to 2 people polymorphed. Going from our skills to our talents, these are the things that actually add to our abilities. Our first lowest level talent, C-Link, or C-level talent, what I use is Soul Link. Soul Link is that link in between you and your target, and it's going to return HP in between you and your target. It's got a 5-second internal cooldown, and it auto transfers the HP. Very strong. If you're tethered to a tank and your HP is low, the tank's going to sacrifice some of his HP to give to you. Or if you're in a dungeon in PvE and your tank's taking damage, is going to take your life and sacrifice it to him. It's an extremely strong ability, and it makes you and your target pretty deceptively tanky. Your next one is Sand of Time. This gives you increased crit rate. And your other one, Ballot in the Snow, basically removes the heal effect from your Ice Glare Shock, but it increases the damage by 30%. These two abilities are more so if you're trying to play the class as a DPS burst mage, but in my opinion, it really excels as the support class, and you're going to see that through some of the PvP videos. Don't get me wrong, you still rack up your kills, you're still able to do a good amount of DPS through this way of building your character correctly. Your second ability, one I use, Law of Time. What this does is every time Time Lock is used, it reduces the cooldown by 5 seconds. This once again can be cloned. If your clone uses it, you reduce by 10 seconds. Pretty amazing ability. Your next one, Loki's Trick. Loki's Trick will actually polymorph a second target. Just you will polymorph a second target. It's really not that great in the sense that, I mean, maybe if you're playing as DPS burst mage, but the Law of Time is better. If you really need to polymorph 2 targets, you can simply use your clone to do it. Dance with Swans, basically your phase shock damage is increased by 30%. Once again, DPS mage, that's probably what you're going to want to pick. Falling Glacier. Falling Glacier, during the time expansion, releasing Ice Glare Shock and hitting targets will reduce the cooldown of Ice Glare Shock by 1 second. The thing is, the cooldown already is low on that, so it's going to bring it down to 4 versus 5. It's not that amazing of ability. Lord of Time is going to definitely be better because it's going to reduce the cooldown of Shadowy Light. Shadowy Light being the ability that clones your abilities. So every time you time lock, you're going to have your Shadowy Light ready to double time lock. And then last being Stop Pendulum. Dealt damage to targets controlled by Mark of Azora. Time stop is increased by 25%. Once again, a DPS more ability. And then finally for your level 70, you're going to use, Twin's Edge. What this does basically is that you don't have to use your time expansion anymore. Your target will always have these buffs, so increased movement speed, crit resist, cooldown reduction, and 10% damage reduction. Now, it does not stack with time expansion, so when you use time expansion, your time expansion 20% damage reduction will come in, but it doesn't stack with each other. It'll just remove one of the effects. But super strong as it's constantly active. So while your time expansion is on cooldown, this ability is rolling. As far as your EXs go, these are a little bit situational. Light Beacon being your strongest heal. This returns 16,973 HP at my level per second. And then it's also giving you 10% damage reduction, 20% movement speed, and it's a duration of 10 seconds. So it's a very strong heal, except it's on a very long cooldown. It's got a 60-second cooldown. This is very good for PvP as well as dungeons. It helps out a lot with the damage reduction, making you deceptively tanky in that sense as well, again, with all this damage reduction that your class can produce. Time Zero. Time Zero is a knock up in the air ability. It does 9,725 magic damage, and it stops the character for 3 seconds. This would be more so for your burst mage type class. Your next ability that I tend to prioritize is Winter. As soon as I'm able to unlock Vortex, I'll probably go to that, as it gives me a damage absorbing shield for the next 20 seconds and dealing massive damage to nearby enemies. Winter actually provides some sort of CC. Most classes have all of these EXs already, so any class that you are, you'll share these effects with them. What this does is it causes a stun. After 8 seconds, it explodes and it stuns up to characters within 4 meters for 5 seconds. There are other abilities as you level and you unlock. Currently, what's available to me, this is what I utilize. Once again, I'll probably switch to Vortex. I see a lot of people using this Tyrant's Eye, which is not a bad ability. It does a considerable amount of damage, and it also makes you immune to crowd control. The only problem with this ability is that it is too much focused on cast time, so your character basically causes an animation in the air and stands there for a multitude of seconds, and it's very visibly shown that you're doing the ability, and it pushes the people away from you, and then you don't really get that full effect of the magic damage off, and you're basically just standing there for a long period of time trying to cast this ability. The others are more so DPS based and stuff, but you can pick on your choosing in your playstyle. As far as your sigils go, just level up everything you can. You're able to obtain these pretty easily. While a lot of people think that the game is pay to win, I think it's really on just how you manage your resources. I don't really see it being that heavily pay to win. As long as you focus on your stats correctly on your character, you can beat higher BR players all the time, which you'll see in my video, the PvP montage. It's easily doable. Moving on to your core and your explanation of your stats. Your core are your gems, right? These are going to be where you're going to get a decent amount of stats from them. So there's a couple ones that you really want to focus on. Right now you have fire, you have water, you have wind, you have earth, right? All giving you different stats. As you can see, I have a decent amount of earth stats. Con is a stat that gives you HP, physical, and magic defense. The thing about your character is that you have to remember, a lot of people don't build a lot of HP on the healers. They're focused a lot into these water gems. While they are good, they don't give you the amount of defenses that you need on your SouldDancer, because you are a lot more tanky, and you remember that your twin pack is affected by your HP. So the HP that you can return between you and your other target is massive when you have a larger HP pool to benefit from that. So I roll a couple fire gems, which is obviously going to give me the int I need for more magic attack, which will also increase my healing. INS will also give me my magic attack, as well as cooldown reduction, which is really strong on your SouldDancer. And then I roll a little bit of crit. The crit more so for my damage output. I don't see heals like really critting, so I don't think that's really a thing in Dragon Raja, but it does benefit your damage. And then after that, I roll a lot of water, because water is obviously your main stat for your character. As far as allies go, the allies are ignored too much, I think, especially in this game. They're extremely important. You need to try and get the ones that are going to benefit your character as much as possible. As you can see, most of them give you EXs that you already get that you would get as a normal character, but it provides it to your ally, which gives it to you in turn. So things like, for instance, I have this one that removes crowd control from up to 5 allies within 10 meters, increasing movement speed, dodge level, and causing attacks to never miss for 10 seconds. Pretty strong little buff from your ally. Right? You need to pay attention to what your allies are providing you. Obviously, you want to shoot for the orange ones, but if you're not putting a lot of money into the game and stuff, a lot of the purple ones offer the same type of EXs. Right? The EXs are all the same. They're no difference. And if the purple or blue offers it, great, then and that's what you currently have in your arsenal, then utilize it, because it's going to be a lot stronger than just leveling up some random purples that maybe not have the abilities on them that you need. Anything that's going to give you cooldown reduction, shields. There's one here that gives you a shield on her basic ability. Let's see if I can find her. Here we go. Jen will creates a shield that absorbs damage for 10 seconds and grants additional damage reduction. As a healing class, this is amazing. So, you know, if you can get this character, great. It also increases P defense and M defense. So you really want to focus on the allies that are going to benefit you the most. Look at their stats, look what they do, and then gear them wisely. As far as, speaking of gear, as far as that goes, we will go into our gear. So what stats should you be focusing on? Well, if you look into your character menu here in the explanation down in the right hand corner, it's going to tell you what your main stats are. Con, Int, and INS, right? I would focus more so on Con and INS than I would Int, as Int is going to give you multi-strike, which you really don't need too much. Being a SouldDancer, it's not, don't get me wrong, it's not bad, it's just not entirely necessary, versus INS, which is going to give you the CDR that you need. It'll give you M attack as well, and it gives you armor piercing also. And then Con obviously giving you the physical defense you need and the HP, as it gives you 400 versus the others giving you 120 or 240, as well as crit resist. So when you're looking at gear, you're going to want to make sure that those stats are reflected on your gear. Let me get into there. Okay, so for instance, if you look at my weapon here, I have some purple stats on there. I have water attack. Remember that your SouldDancer only does water damage. So any stat that's going to give you water attack is going to up your character's damage, all of his skills. So water attack is definitely important. But what I try to focus, if you noticed, is I have a lot of defensive stats. So wind defense, P defense, I have a lot of cooldown reduction, and then I have my INS and my Con on there and stuff. When you're focusing on your stats for your character, pay attention to what you're putting on your gear. Crit resilience is very good. All of these are going to make you super tanky, super annoying to kill, and being able to keep up your tethered person as well, because you're going to have that HP, you're going to have those defenses to be able to keep trading HP in between you and that character. It's extremely strong. So we got our skills out of the way, we've got our allies out of the way, we've done our core and our gear. As far as our pet goes, I don't consider pets super strong in this game. You have to remember that they only give you these bonuses off of their ultimates. Okay, so every time they cast their ultimates, they're going to give you these benefits. It's not that they're bad, it's just that there's other things to really invest in on your character at the moment. I would focus more so on your allies and your gems and stuff than really worrying about your pet being extremely high level. That'll just come with time. I mean, I've done a lot of this for not much money involved in the game at all, and it just comes with time, and it's easy to achieve. So pets are out of the way. Just anything you do as far as your pets go too, just make sure that you're focusing on things that are going to give you those defensive stats that they need, with not sacrificing too much on damage. As far as your motor goes, this is really doesn't matter. It's whatever is available to you. Those are just going to give you stats in general. Just focus on what's available to you and you'll benefit from it. Just focus on one for now. Just pick one motor, focus on it, and then just keep getting those stats out of it. Other than it, guys, that's kind of how you play the SouldDancers. Up next is going to be some PvP montage and stuff, so you'll be able to see and go through that and see how my play style is, and you'll be able to see some of the battles where I'm able to keep my target up through dozens and dozens of players, and how strong the class really is. Hopefully you guys all take some information from this. You're able to see kind of how I play it, and you're able to utilize it in your games as well. Thank you guys for watching, and check out the PvP montage, and we'll talk next time.
I get lost inside my thoughts, and when I start to think, oh, the Tahoe closest starts to end up on the brink. I tried so hard, but all these scars, they cut so deep I bleed. I fell so fast from heaven, it's like someone clipped my wings. Now I'm falling, and I can't see the ground. Can we stop this gravity? It keeps bringing me down. I can't breathe and I don't wanna die. Can we stop this gravity? 'Cause I don't wanna say goodbye. I laid awake just begging to let go. I almost got to suicidal thoughts, but you stepped in. An angel sent from heaven showed me how to live again. Now I'm falling, and I can't see the ground. Can we stop this gravity? It keeps bringing me down. I can't breathe and I don't wanna die. Can we stop this gravity? 'Cause I don't wanna say goodbye. Gravity.